Hi, everybody. This is Cynthia Kane, and welcome back to week 3 of our class with Evaluate and Manage. This is our tutorial that will deal with our engagement activity and learning assessment number 3, evaluation of sources. We would remind you again that you choose the number of engagement activity credit points and the number of learning assessments that you want to complete according to the grade that you're getting in this class, the grade that you're aiming for. So always keep that in mind when you are deciding what you would like to accomplish for each week. So at this point, one thing that you could start with is checkpoint number 1, quiz number 1 that you see on the screen. Quiz number 1 will go over identify and scope and plan and gather at this point. With this quiz, it's worth a maximum of 10 points. You have 3 attempts, and the highest score that you get with each attempt will count. This is actually not due until May 1st, so if you feel like you want to go back and do this quiz later on, you're more than welcome to do that, or you could just go ahead and attempt it now. These points do count as engagement activity credits, and they're just really a good way of saying, this is what I've learned from this point, and this is what I've accomplished. So again, you can do that if you wish. Now, it does look like we have a lot of content with week 3, and indeed we do. But I'm going to go over this, so hopefully it won't seem quite as overwhelming to you. So at the very top of the page here, we have a direct link to the University Libraries and Archives webpage, and I'm going to go to that here. The reason we have that is that for Learning Assessment 3, we want you to use the Discovery Search Catalog and our library databases to find some information that you would use ultimately for your evaluation of sources assignment. You can also use websites as well, but we also want you to be able to find at least one book, probably in e-form at this point, or the full text of an article, and I'll be explaining that more later on, and I'll show you how you do that. So I'll go back to this tab over here. Of course, our video tutorials are on here. Under the Evaluate video tutorial, we've given you some links to some different evaluation tools. You'll remember the SIFT handout that I talked about in the Evaluate video tutorial. There's a link to the handout so you can see that in more information and more detail as well. And then under the Manage video tutorial, I referred in that tutorial to these 2 YouTube videos, Every Breath You Take and I'll Be Missing You. I'd like for you to watch those on your own and think about the similarities. And then what I talked about in the video tutorial about what can happen if you don't ask permission beforehand to use a tune in another song or another video. It can cost that person a lot of money, as we found in this particular situation. I also have 2 separate videos that you can watch on your own if you like. Here's one that I refer to. This is a video tutorial that I made on how to use Zotero, how to download it to your computer and how to use it to manage your citations and then create bibliographies. The other one is a video tutorial for APA Academic Writer. I showed you that one very briefly in the Manage video tutorial. Again, that's only for APA style, but if you'd like to learn a little bit more how to use APA Academic Writer, I'd really encourage you to watch that video tutorial as well. So now we're going to get down to the engagement activity and the learning assessment. So the evaluation and manage discussion is our engagement activity. This is going to be due by 11:59 p.m. on April 5th, but remember you have that grace period until 11:59 p.m. on April 7th. And when we click on this activity, we want you to watch this video and then respond with your own thoughts, several sentences, don't just do 1 or 2 sentences, about a time in which you might have struggled in writing a paper or creating a presentation with whether or not to cite or to give credit to other authors in your work. Why did you struggle? And why did the concept of plagiarism, why can that be a challenge in scholarly work? So have some fun with this one. Respond in about 5 or 6 sentences, but think about when you might have struggled on whether or not you should have given credit to an author and then what that challenge was like. And I think that video will help you with that as well. So that will be our engagement activity for a maximum of 5 points. And we'll spend the most time with learning assessment number 3, the evaluation of sources. And there are several parts to this one. So the first thing you would want to do with this is download this worksheet. And I'm going to show that worksheet to you in just a second. Then I want you to use the Discovery Search Catalog or the databases of the library's webpage, but you can also use Google or Google Scholar. You are going to be researching the topic that you started to identify in Learning Assessment 1 and that you fleshed out if you completed Learning Assessment 2, the research plan. So this is the topic that you're working on for the rest of this class period. We want you to find one primary source and one secondary source. Go back to our previous tutorials if you're still not quite sure of the differences between a primary source and a secondary source of information. Now, the secondary source has to be in full text, so you can't use something that you just have an abstract for. You've got to find the PDF full text, and that could be an ebook or it could be an article from a database, and I'll show you that in just a second as well. So you're going to be evaluating two sources of information, a primary source and a secondary source, both related to your topic. The worksheet will show you all of the questions that you need to answer. And we have it organized so that you're going to do a citation for each of the sources. Your citations have to be correct in APA or in MLA format, and we've given you the tools to do that as well. And answer all of these questions completely for each of the sources. So please don't just say that, yes, the content of this source applies to my topic. That's not going to do the trick. You have to explain in detail why. Do about 5 or 6 sentences, I would say at a minimum, for each of these particular points, for number 1 and for number 2. And each of these is going to ask you to rate on a scale of 1 to 5, where 1 means poor and 5 means excellent, how you would rate the overall quality of this source and why. Again, don't just say, I rate this a 5 because it's a good source. That's when we're going to grade that as an incomplete, and then we're going to return that to you for that possibility of revising it for a complete. If you have any questions about how to do this worksheet, reach out to me, reach out to Megan before this is due. We're more than happy to help you through email or through a Zoom appointment. So you can complete this worksheet for your 2 sources. And then you're going to actually start creating a website using Wix or some other free website building program. And I'm going to click back here for just a second. So part of a learning outcome for this class is to get you familiar with technology and how to create new learning objects such as a website. So this link is a good video tutorial about how to use Wix at www.wix.com to create a website. I'm going to show you mine in a moment as well. And this link is a research guide that one of our librarians wrote on how to start creating your own website. So we have a tab specifically for Wix, and there are some good tutorials that you can go through on here as well on how to create a site on Wix. This is what Wix looks like when you log in, and you can log in with a Google account with your g.emporia.edu account, or you could create a free account as well. You would then have an opportunity to create a new site, and you could decide on whatever template might look interesting to you. You could do a portfolio, for example, and create your website with the Wix editor. And I'm going to click on this one, because the way that you're going to submit this assignment is not as a Microsoft Word document. I gave you that worksheet to help you answer the questions. But what you're actually going to be doing when we go back over here and go back to the evaluation of sources, you're actually going to be submitting a URL, and the URL will actually take you to the Wix website where you have published a page, and you will use the website to turn in this assessment. You're going to turn in this assessment as a page on this website. So you can complete the worksheet with all the questions, and then if you wanted to, you could just copy and paste that text. And when you go back over here to Wix, you're going to customize this so that you could put your topic here. For example, if I were doing eating disorders and art therapy, I could edit my text. Again, I'm just creating a very simple website right now. And if I go here to home, I could choose a page. And notice there's a lot of text here already on this template. I can delete all of that text. And if I went down here to manage pages, I could rename this page Evaluation of Sources. And now that's called Evaluation of Sources. I could get rid of this, and then I could change this to something such as Evaluation of Sources Assignment. So you see, it's pretty easy to change stuff on Wix. Again, I can get rid of all of this information. I'm just pressing my delete key here. Probably wouldn't want that picture, so I could delete that picture. And if I went over here to add, I could add a paragraph. And I can make this a little bit larger. And this is where I could copy and paste that information for my evaluation of sources assignment for my primary source and my secondary source. I would need to go back and do some editing because there may be some things that don't come over, such as italicizing titles of journals and so forth. We are going to be looking very carefully to make sure your citations are correct as well. So ask us if you have any questions at all about that. And then once you've done that on your portfolio, on your Wix site, the last thing you would do here would be to go over to publish. And you do have to do this so that we'll be able to see the URL. So I can publish this. Your name will be part of this domain, just like mine is on C. Kane. And you could call this UL100ZB. Save and continue. And now that's published. And once it says, congratulations, your site is published and is live online, and you have that evaluation of sources page in there, copy that URL, go back over here, go to submit assignment, and submit it as a website URL. When we get that, we'll check the URL to make sure that we can view that. If we can't, we will get back in touch with you, but you're still going to need to get it in by the due date. So we'll be checking this as you go along. So make sure that it is published and it is viewable so that we can take a look at it. And when we go back over here to the evaluation of sources, as you know, submitting a learning assessment does not mean that it's complete. You've submitted it. So this is the rubric that we're going to be looking at. Make sure that you've answered all of these questions in the rubric for consideration as complete. And if something isn't complete, then we'll grade that as incomplete, and then we'll give you that feedback so that you can go back and revise it if you choose to do that and then resubmit it. And this will be due April 3rd by 11:59 p.m. with that grace period of April 5th. So we always have that 2-day grace period. And finally, the evaluate and manage discussion. We've talked about that one already. We talked about our research guide and our website building program. Going back up here, again, we can't emphasize this enough. Drop in during our Zoom office hours if you have any questions about the engagement activity or a learning assessment or just how you feel like you're doing so far in this class, because we know you have a lot going on right now. Good luck with that. Let us know if you have any questions.